Welcome to the RAG Podcast, the weekly show where I interview recruitment owners who are prepared to tell their unique story of growth. This is all in aid of helping future and existing recruitment businesses who are looking to do similar things. Now, growth means different things to different people. So by tuning in every week, you're no doubt going to find information that's relevant to you.
On this week's episode, I'm joined by Haseena Mooncey. She's the co-founder of CHR Life Sciences, a specialist recruitment business headquartered in the UK with operations across the world. They specifically look at niche roles across life sciences, and the business is a true boutique, but I would say a modern boutique. What I love about this episode is Haseena talks about how she started the company at 25 years old. She had only 3 years recruitment experience, and her co-founder was previously a boss, talked her into taking the plunge. And how many females take that risk at that age in our industry? How many males do, but how many females do? There's not a lot. I think this is one of the first times I've interviewed someone who's started at such a young age and has made it a success. So in this episode, we talk about her mindset, how she set the business up, how she's made it a successful business with contractors running in Ireland, in Europe, in the UK. The risks attached to starting a business so young, the challenges mentally, the highs and the lows, and where she's heading. She's got a really modern outlook, but actually with very traditional values, and I love the way she approaches building a contract business. It's very similar to how I did when I was in the game. So anyone who's thinking of starting a business in their early to mid-20s, you've got to listen to this. Let's go. Without further ado, Haseena, welcome to the RAG Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure. I am looking and feeling terrible today after being sick all night. So
it's okay, you're excused.
I'll try and do my best today.
The wind messed up my hair, that's my excuse.
Oh, it messed mine up as well.
Yeah.
I actually got my hair cut in Dubai at the end of the holiday.
Did you?
Yeah.
Was it good?
It's like, well, it's not much to this cut, is there? It's a bit short on the sides, but 25 quid. In England, it's like £12 to get my hair cut.
Really?
Well,
but that's in Sheffield.
Yeah, true. But
you come to London, I don't think it's the same.
There's a lot of like Turkish, Kurdish barbers who do it for about a tenner in London.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't go to barbers.
Yeah. So I was a bit disappointed with that price, but yeah, not much of a haircut going on these days.
Oh well.
No, I'm getting old.
Got other things going for
But look, thanks for coming on. Thanks for being here. People might not know you, so before we get into the story, can you just give us the bird's eye view of you and the business, what you do, and then we'll go into tell the story.
Of course. So I'm the co-founder of CHR Life Sciences, alongside a guy called Chris. At the moment, we've got 3 staff. We've got a presence in London. We're covering Europe, and we're starting to do the US. Mm-hmm. We've been running for 3 years now. So yeah, that's
amazing.
A brief overview.
And you're headquartered here, right?
Yeah, we've got an office by Liverpool Street.
Amazing.
And we do sort of pharmaceuticals, life sciences.
Mm-hmm. And you, 3 years ago you set up, so that would that been in like a pretty boom time of COVID, wouldn't it? Like the good...
Yeah, kind of like 2022, so coming out of it, no more lockdowns, everyone's free, everyone's loving life.
Yeah. So let's go back. How did you get into recruitment?
So it was actually Chris that called me up. So I was working as like an e-rep for a company called Ashfield. Right. But I was subcontracted to Novo Nordisk, which is a pharmaceutical company.
Right, so you were in the industry.
Yeah.
To do sales.
I really wanted to be a sales rep. I was
on the road, that kind of...
On the road, yeah. But they're cutting costs and they're putting you on the phone. Like that hold music, I could like hear it in my sleep. It was haunting me because no doctor's going to want to talk to you on the phone. They've got patients coming.
So did you used to get on the road and drive around?
No, it was an e-rep. So you're literally sitting in an office all day. Yeah. And they loved it because I was doing my work, but I didn't love it. I was like, this is so boring.
What were you selling?
Diabetes drugs to GPs.
So phoning or cold calling or?
Yeah, cold calling, just be like, I'm a rep from Novo Nordisk, and then booking in the meetings to go on the road. But it just wasn't for me.
What made you go into pharmaceutical stuff?
I don't know. I think it's my mum's a doctor, so she used to come back home with all these toys from like reps and stuff. I was like, oh, what are those? Yeah. Like when I was really young. But I was actually really shy. Yeah. Like genuinely, if you told me 20 years ago I'd be doing this, I'd be like, no, no way. We even had like a fashion show when I was probably about 4 or 5. Yeah. I was so shy and I couldn't step down the step. Aww. So I had to wait for the girl next to me, step down, ruin the show. But yeah, it's what it is.
I've got a stepdaughter who's 11, a stepson who's 10, and my daughter is 17 months next week.
Oh, lovely.
And like my wife's quite shy naturally. She's definitely evolved as she got older, but I think by nature she's quite introverted.
Yeah.
And the kids have definitely got a bit of that from her. My daughter is a nutter. Like
really?
I've always been quite like theatrical and probably shows on my LinkedIn content, but my daughter's definitely got.
Yeah.
I think she's going to be a bit of a drama queen. I see it.
It keeps it exciting.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know. So with my parents aren't shy, my siblings aren't shy. They were always like overachievers. But
Did they push you into sales then, or was it to try and prove something to someone?
No. So I wanted to be an e-rep. I wanted to be a rep. I thought it'd be really fun, nice car, drive around. And it was actually Chris who called me. And I've actually still got the voicemail because it was 7 years ago, a few days ago, and I played it to him in the office to embarrass him.
Wow.
And he said, I've got an opportunity in sales. So I called him back thinking it'll be a medical sales rep role, but it was actually recruitment. But going back to your earlier question, I was never pushed into sales.
No.
My mum's in the medical field, my dad's in the legal field.
Yeah.
My sister's now training to be a doctor. So she's followed my mum's footsteps.
Yeah.
My brother then did law, but he actually does podcasting now for the MBA. So yeah.
The NBA?
Yeah. So yeah, really different. But I just kind of, I don't know, never knew what I wanted to do. But as I got older, I got more confident. So I was like, I want a job where I could be paid to talk to people.
Yeah.
So yeah, what I'm doing now.
Wow.
And then, yeah, just sort of fell into it. And I think it's good because it combines my passion for sales, but also an industry I'm actually interested in and one that I actually care about. So it's kind of like the perfect fit. So
when you got that call from Chris,
yeah,
what happened next?
Called him back. He must have loved it because I didn't realise phone time was a thing. I gave him probably 30, 45 minutes. Yeah. I was on my way home from work and I was like, okay. At first, when he called me, I was a bit, who is this guy? How did he find me? But it was good. He gave me an insight into why it would be good for me. And then he was working the perm market and I was working the contract market. So we were each other's counterparts. Yeah. So now we're working together still.
Was this his first hire type thing or did he already have a team?
No, so this was for our old company. He had a team and then I think they were just looking for graduates.
Right.
So then I had an assessment day. I remember going down, it was snowing. I took the train down to London and I was like, oh my goodness. Stayed overnight, went in. It was an assessment day and then they took you to an escape room to see how you think logically and stuff like that.
Things, I'll be honest, I can't stand anything.
Well, everyone that I was with, none of them were hired. So
you must have done well.
I must have done something right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was 7 years ago. So I don't know where the time's gone. So he was doing perm, like I said, and I was doing contract and we were doing quite a niche market.
Which was?
QPs.
Right.
So they release a drug to market to say that it's safe for human or animal consumption.
Right.
So the contract market's huge, perm market also huge because they're on a lot of money, but the risk for them is high.
I bet, yeah.
And that sort of sits in the quality assurance market in the industry. So there's a lot to expand in. So we worked well together and then about, just over 3 years ago, there were a lot of changes. My manager left. And then I was sort of covering the team in that interim period. And then we got a new manager in. And then one of my friends who does sort of search recruitment, I've always been in touch with him. And he was like, oh, look, we're looking for someone to manage our contract function. So I interviewed with them and I got the job. Then we had the REC Awards.
Yeah.
We had that. And then I needed to hand my notice in the next day. So I won the award. Next morning, handed in my notice.
What award did you win?
The Recruiter of the Year for contract.
Wow. Cool.
So yeah, I was like, great. And then I was like, I felt really bad because I was like, just won this award. Obviously, the company's helped me get there and I learned so much there. But I was like, I need to hand my notice in today. Yeah. Otherwise, I can't start. But I was unsure if that was the route I wanted to take. And then obviously Chris found out that I was leaving and I didn't know, but he was also leaving.
All right.
And then we had a conversation and then, we worked well together and he was like, why would you go and set up for someone else their contract function when you could do it for yourself?
And how old are you at this point?
25.
So that takes, I think that's some real confidence at 25 to even consider that. I didn't even go into recruitment until I was 25.
And look at you now. Yeah.
I'm bloody old, 38. I'm old. But it's I think about the maturity levels of myself at 25. I was living out in Australia, I was with my mates, I was partying, running in my own. I mean, I didn't have the experience you had. How many years did you have before?
I only had 3.5. So it actually wasn't that much.
It's enough to know your job, but it's...
I knew my market and that's what I thought. If it goes wrong, I'll get a job somewhere else. That's literally the worst thing that could happen. And I was like, what's the point of being afraid? Because if I don't take this leap now, when will I ever take it? Because at that point, I was like 5 years down the line, I could be in a completely different situation. Yeah. I could, have kids or whatever, and that wouldn't be right for me. So I was like, I might as well do it now while I'm young. And then...
So how fast did that accelerate from you're about to hand your notice in to you're not going to work for this company? Did you hand your notice in? I
handed my notice in.
So you were leaving to go somewhere else, and then in the middle he hijacked you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I remember it so clearly because we had the awards night, we could go in late. And then I went to the gym, went to the spa, and then one of my friends at the gym, he runs like a mortgage company, and he was like, "You look really worried. What's wrong with you?" I was like, "I'm about to hand in my notice." He was like, "But what about your mortgage?" And I didn't think. I was like, "I don't know. What about my mortgage? What am I going to do?" He's like, "Because like, what's your term?" And he's like, "Oh, you can just do a product transfer. It'll be fine."
Yeah.
And I was like, "I managed to save enough to cover me for a set period, so that's fine."
How much run rate did you have?
Like 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
So
Same.
it's fine. Like, I think that's all you need, because I knew that I had restricted covenants for 6 months, and once that's over, the market's mine again.
Yeah.
And my one fear was that my contractors would forget me, and they're like, "Well, how could we forget you?" I was like, "Do you know what? You're right."
Oh, that's nice.
So yeah, I had that, and then yeah, I actually remember texting Chris at like 3-4 a.m. over the break, like the Christmas break, and because I was on gardening leave, and I was like, "Oh, Chris, I don't think I can do this. I'm so sorry."
So you've gone, quit, tell him you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And then I'm not sure.
I hadn't signed anything. So
had you told the other company that you were not going to join?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I told them, I was completely honest with them. I said, "Look, I've either got you or I've got this other guy." And I remember one of them, he called me and he said, "Look, I'm so passionate about people setting up their own businesses, but I don't think it's right for you at this point."
Is that enough to make you go, right, I'm going to do it then?
No, I was like, what if he's right? And that's why I text Chris.
Oh,
I was
God.
like,
So you got in your head?
oh my God. Yeah, he got in my head massively. But then I thought, look, my contract book is where, I had to walk away from that. So that was going to happen regardless.
Yeah.
But I've got the network. I know the people. I know how to do my job. And I was like,
Had you managed any teams at this point?
No, I'd managed people in my team, but I wasn't like an official manager.
Yeah.
So, but that's fine. Like, that's not something that I was afraid of.
And Chris as
and
well,
also
was
got
he
Chris.
already doing
Yeah,
that?
he was already a manager. So that part I wasn't scared of. It was just, will I still be able to bill? But obviously I can, because my deals were 360. So I was like, why am I scared? Like, why am I letting this get to me? But I think it's also difficult when I suppose no one in my family, in like my siblings or anything, my sister took a very conventional route. My parents as well, they worked all the way up and they're so highly regarded in their fields. But I was like, no one knows about
Asian
recruitment.
Community, there's entrepreneurship, but there's a hell of a lot of accountancy, law, doctors,
medicine, pharmacists.
Yeah.
Like so many of my friends, pharmacists, doctors.
It's like, coming to the UK, you've got to go one step further, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've got to put yourself in a. So was that hard then to explain I'm going to be an entrepreneur?
No, because I was away with my parents and my brother we went to Istanbul last year, and then it was just me and my dad. My brother went off to see something else, and then we got to talking about his father, and I didn't realise, but this guy is the biggest entrepreneur of all time. Like, he came here. Yeah, he came here. My dad was about 3 or 4. He worked in a factory, saved up money, then opened up a shop.
Yeah.
Shock. Wasn't a corner shop though, it was actually in the middle of the road, so breaking stereotype.
Yeah.
But yeah, my dad was telling me how he was such an entrepreneur, like always looking, how he can maximise profit margins and things like that. And I was like, well, maybe that's what made me the way that I am today.
Maybe.
Because
my business partner is family from Punjab and same shops.
Yeah.
But there's an energy to that immigration, I think, that you've got no choice. Like, we're gonna make this work.
Exactly.
Whereas if we grow up in the UK and we're like, we don't have to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it was like, my parents have always been, so open with me. They're like, do whatever makes you happy. Like, there's never been like a push on, like, obviously they want us to do well and they, regard education highly, but it's not the be all and end all as long as you're happy in what you do. Like, my younger brother, he's in media at uni. Who knows what he'll do? I'm sure he'll do something great, but he's not followed a conventional path either. So
this was over Christmas.
Yeah.
Right. It reminds me a lot of mine, because I went to a spa the day before I quit my job to start Hoxo.
Was it the same one?
It was Champneys in, it wasn't the Chigwell, it was a Champneys spa in Henlow or Tring.
Oh, nice.
Tring,
Yeah.
It was Hertfordshire way. And I went back, I was living in Romford, I think.
Oh, really? How was that?
No, I was living in Crystal Palace. I owned a house there, and then me and my ex moved to Romford a few months after I started the business.
Right.
But I remember being so sick in my stomach all the way through that spa. I didn't enjoy a single minute of it, and I was just like,
yeah.
But then once it's done, it's that relief. But then you've still got a decision to make.
Yeah, because I'm like, well, I've handed in my notice. What now? But
how long did it take to you? 100% concrete. We're doing it.
Literally, so I text Chris 3-4 a.m. and then he reassured me, and I was like, do you know what? I've trusted him once. He's got me this far.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't for Chris and my old company, I wouldn't have, have the house that I live in. Wouldn't live the life that I was living. So I was like, do you know what? He was right once. I'll trust him again. So yeah.
So, I mean, it's very young to have your own mortgage, and you've got a lot of responsibilities to then start a business.
I know.
What was it? Paint the picture 3 years ago. What was it like in the early 2022?
Yeah, early 2022. So yeah, quit my job. We incorporated, I think 14th of Jan, just so we could get everything in order. We used the Recruit Hub.
Yeah.
So that was good because they did a lot of the background stuff for us. We didn't have to think.
Yeah, they're brilliant for that.
Yeah, I just remember Chris said to me, "You've got to watch these training videos on Vincero." I was like, "What?" It was literally, really long, painful. But yeah, so set up. I actually had a friend staying with me because she was here from Montenegro. She was at uni and it's my best friend's sister. So she was staying with me. And then on the day that we were meant to go into the office, my best friend had bought me a balloon saying like, "Congratulations, CHR Life Sciences." She actually got the company name wrong. But I think that was my fault. She's like, "What's your company called again? Is it this?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then woke up that morning, bit of a sore throat. I was like, "Let me just do a COVID test." Did a COVID test. Had COVID.
Day one of your business?
Day one.
Oh my God.
Call Chris. I was like, "By the way, I'm not coming in." He's like, "What do you mean? Is this at 3 a.m. text all over again?"
Home.
I was like, "Yeah, I've got COVID." He was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, sorry. Not much I can do." So that was, great start. You know, the
So when was that meant to be, like March or February?
No, so that was 14th of Jan,
Right.
first day. It's like, start as you mean to go on. And I was like, this is not how I mean to go on. So yeah, had COVID.
And how did it go when you actually told that other company that you weren't going to join? Did they
were fine.
take it all right in the end?
Yeah, they were like, "Look, we wish you the best." They were like, "If it doesn't work out, we'll have a conversation with you." But they were nice. Obviously, the one guy was like, "Don't think it's right for you," but he didn't know anything about Chris and how much Chris can support the business. So
take us on a journey then. So what was it like? You finally get over COVID, get into the office.
Got over COVID, got into the office. We had an office. It was a tiny office in Waltham Abbey, probably like just enough to fit like a desk there. And that was me, Chris. It was great though. Compare that to our Liverpool street, the rent we're paying was insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, got into the office and it's like, right, I need to build a new market because
you can't tap your own. So how did you go about it? What did you focus on?
Well, I focused on the same market but in Ireland because I thought no time difference, similar market in terms of, people have to be qualified to do the job. It's the same role.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll do that. But then I was like, also, I'm missing a market in Europe. So let me look at both. And if I could change one thing that I did about the business, it would be just focus on Ireland or just focus on somewhere in Europe.
Because trying to do both was
just too much. And it's like I needed to channel all of my energy into one.
So what did you do? Which parts of Europe did you hit?
So Ireland was the main part, and then we looked at Germany and Belgium.
Right.
Chris was doing bits in the US as well. But my first deal was a retainer, but I'm a contract recruiter. So explain that to me.
Deal?
Yeah.
I did a retained perm deal. One of the only perm deals I ever did at Venquist was retained.
Yeah. And I was just like,
whatever.
I'll do it. Because then, obviously, it was because it was a retained search. Obviously, I had Chris supporting me, but they really needed someone in ASAP. So I managed to get a retainer out of them, a contractor out of them, and a perm deal.
Wow.
And that was great because I think once you do your first deal, things start falling into place.
How long did that take?
That was end of Feb.
Oh, wow, that's quick.
So yeah, especially for, I
suppose.
suppose.
Were you phoning up clients? Be like, look, we don't know each other, but I do this in the UK.
It was kind of like, I don't know you, I've done it in the UK. I've worked with companies that have subsidiaries in Ireland. I've got a good network. And obviously, people are connected to people. So I could name drop, I can say like, look, I've worked with X person who I know that you know.
Yeah.
Feel free to reference me. But that call for that retainer, the first call, it was like an angry Irishman called. I just explained who I am, and he's like, okay.
And what?
I was like, okay. And he was like, well, tell me who else you've worked with in Ireland. And I was like, look, we're at the start of it. I've worked with companies that, have subsidiaries in Ireland. My business partner, so Chris had placed in Ireland before. And I was like, but I can't actually tell you who because that's confidentiality because we had a couple of roles on at the moment, but you can't just go and blurt out, I know that all these people are looking for a QP.
Yeah.
Because then he can go and...
What does QP stand for?
Qualified person.
Right. Qualified person?
Yeah.
That sounds very simple.
It sounds, yeah.
Qualified person of what?
Exactly. I don't know. QP or not QP, I don't know.
Could be anything.
It could be anything, but it's, like I say, it's the people who sign off the drug.
Right.
So I guess they're just the most qualified person.
Right.
And then he was like, well, he was just not interested in me. And I was like, this is so rude.
Yeah.
Like, I've had rejection before, but nothing like that. And he was like, well, I don't want to work with you. I was like, okay, fine. Sent him an email and then didn't hear anything from him. And then his CFO emailed me like a few weeks after and she's like, oh, we need a QP. Can you help? And I was like, well, look who it is. It's the same
He's obviously
company.
flicked the email over when they've got things have got tough, and he's going to just reach out to him.
100%. Like, I'm just a nice girl trying to make a living. Like, yeah.
What was that deal worth?
I think the initial retainer was small. I think it was about 6K because he wanted discount.
Yeah.
And then overall it would have been 20 something.
It's not bad, is it?
So it's not bad.
No.
Like, I can't complain, especially when you're a new business and it's like, well, you need something.
So how did you run the business in the early days? Was it you two 5 days a week in the office together, full day, like just run it as you were working for somebody else?
Basically, yeah. It was just come in, because we have Recruit Hub's backing to do other stuff. Come in, hit the phones, like take it right back to basics. So what I would do is I'd do like the contractor calls. I'd find the contractors, call them, generate my leads. You know, this usual like sort of like where have you contracted before, so that I know that those businesses can take contractors. And then Chris was doing perm, and then it was just that for 6 months, going to that office in Waltham Abbey, and it's like, we have to make this work. Like, I don't want to say we were lucky, because Chris always says you make your own luck. It's, you know, what you put in and you get out.
Yeah.
It all adds up. So we had a good period of 6 months, but it wasn't the best. But when things really started snowballing was when my restrictions were over. I remember I was at my parents' house, and it was June, July time. It was like really nice, really sunny. Put a post on LinkedIn with, like, you know, the Calendly link.
Yeah. Saying
Put that in, just saying I'm back. And then people were booking calls in, and they were like, well, what have you been up to the last 6 months? And I was like, really, just working.
That's amazing.
And then obviously it's just catching up with people, because it's like, I didn't want to have any contact with them, because like loads of them like had, you know, WhatsApp them.
Did you post on LinkedIn in that first 6 months?
Yeah, just about the new stuff that I'm
but
doing.
But they'd have seen you.
Yeah, they would have seen.
That was the idea where Hoxo came from. So I was like, I recruited a really niche market in London, Lloyd's of London.
Yeah.
You know, I knew everyone from walking around the Gherkin and just having a beer or coffee. It was like that tight. And the restrictive covenant for 6 months was I couldn't speak to them. But there was nothing that said they couldn't see what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I was like, imagine they watched me or listened to my podcast or whatever. Like, I could be in their ears every day, but not breaking any rules. And saying, look, I won't work with you for 6 months. But my fear was they'd forget me, the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's where the whole idea spiraled.
Yeah, I'll be posting the bits like in Ireland, Europe, whatever. But obviously they're not interested in that. But they probably wanted to know what I'd been up to in those 6 months outside of work. Because they become your friends when you're working and you're embedded in a contract market.
What are the people like in your space? Are they...
they're great. Okay. Like, they're all kind
very
of
intelligent.
Really intelligent. They're kind of like, I guess, sort of like 40s, 50s. They're kind of people that probably, like, if they were in a social setting, my dad would be friends with instead of me. But I'm really close to my dad, so I get along with him great.
And they'll respect a professional service, honesty. Like
like our values, commitment, honesty, and respect. That's what we embody. But I get along with them so well, because I know, like, the grandkids, the dogs, the kids, and I don't know why, but I remember a lot.
Same.
So if someone tells me something, like, I know that someone had a baby, and he mentioned like 2 years ago that his son was called Sebi, and I was like, how's Sebi?
Yeah.
He was like, how do you remember that? I was like,
well, nowadays that would be done through AI. It'd be pulled from a call into a CRM. But I was the same. I used to literally know all these things, and then the thing that I used to love doing was, like, in a meeting, a client would say, like, we need X, Y, and Z, and I'd just be like, on my phone, just going, what do you think of this guy? Boom. And I'd show like 5 profiles on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
They respected me enough that they weren't going to cut me out, but it was the memory. I didn't need the CRM to find the majority of my contract market. I just knew. I knew the process, I knew the products, I knew the platforms they'd worked in, where they were, I knew the rates. It was there. I was
at a networking event in June last year, and I was talking to a hiring manager that we recruited someone for, and he was like, oh, how's she getting on, blah, blah. And he was like, yeah, she's great. And then the guy who was sitting in the middle, he was just looking at me, and I was like, oh no, have I offended him? Have I said something? And he was like, what is it that you recruit for? And I said, oh, QPs. And he's like, I need a QP. And then literally, same as you, straight away, I was like, okay, well, I know that this guy's got a day a week available. Is that going to work? And he was like, that's exactly what we need. He's got the right experience.
Yeah.
And it's just about knowing your market.
Yeah.
But
that's about being that niche and not doing too many things.
Inch wide, mile deep.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest, once my restrictions were over, I didn't have the time to continue to engage in the markets that I'd built. So I think for me that was quite difficult to be like, I've started this and now I've got to stop it.
Was the opportunity in the UK just bigger though?
I think it was just that comfort.
Yeah.
It's like, I know these people, they need jobs. I can get them jobs. So it just kind of makes sense. So now we've got someone who's doing the Irish market for us, which is great because
they took over that.
Yeah, but also when I look at the UK and sort of like the landscape at the moment, like literally a week ago, one of my clients called me and he's like, we're closing down, we're going into liquidation. Then you've got big names like MSD, Thermo Fisher. They're moving their operations out to Europe because of Brexit. So
Ireland might become another market to focus on.
Exactly, I might be going back.
Yeah.
Like, hey everyone, remember me?
Yeah.
But it's just because
But the candidate flow, would they move with it?
Probably not.
What
I
would you
mean,
do then?
like if
Can't
someone
they
was
work
made,
remote?
not really, because they need to be on
Yeah,
site
lab.
with the products. Yeah, exactly. But it's just because we've lost that license freedom. So when you release something in the UK, it then has to be transported to Europe and then re-released by another QP. So if I'm a business, why am I going to release it in the UK when I've got, you know, such
We
a
have
small...
absolutely royally messed up, haven't we, this
I
country?
know.
In the last 10 years. It's just... I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's like the UK, the Great Britain that I suppose my grandparents came here for isn't what it's like anymore.
No,
Like-
and I've been in Dubai last week. Like, everyone you meet who's in a recruitment owner role, they're just like, oh, why would I go back? Like, they're
Yeah.
just so nonchalant about the fact that
Yeah.
you know the market's booming, it's busy, they work it globally, they're in the middle of the world, they don't pay tax. Like, there's so many benefits. And
Yeah.
we're in darkness for 7 months.
I
a
know.
year.
Yeah, it's not great.
But then if your market's, I mean, the good thing about what I do is the amount of recruitment companies here, you couldn't beat it anywhere in the world.
Exactly.
Like, this is a melting pot of recruitment.
Yeah.
But for you, if your market starts to shift, then you've got to shift with it.
Yeah, but it's like I went away to Dubai as well in May last year, and it's like because they're 3 hours ahead, it was great. Like I'd have my morning to
morning.
myself and then just start work like normal.
Well, that's what I mean. If I would love to live there if I could. And
Would you?
Yeah, having stepkids and there's quite a lot of complexity
Yeah.
in my life that I can't just do it. But if I didn't have that, I'd be there.
Would you go back to Australia?
No, not
No.
in a million years.
Really? Why not?
I don't see Australia. I love Australia and the people out there. I've got loads of clients, but
Yeah.
I feel like it's on its own at the end of the road, isn't it?
My sister lived there for a year. She moved back 2 weeks ago.
I just
But
can't. I can't
for
see
medics, it's great out there. Like you have a shift, it ends when it's meant to end. Then you finish work, you go and walk on the beach.
Oh, look, there's no doubt the lifestyle's good.
Yeah, but it's just so
it's
far
so
away.
far. That's the problem. I was literally having breakfast with one of my clients in Dubai last Wednesday, and he said that his business is Sydney, London, and Dubai, and he lives in Dubai.
Yeah.
And he's like, if he could lift and shift Sydney to Dubai, he would swap it because it's a better
Yeah.
place to live. But it's on the.
It's just too far.
So far. And when I lived there, I remember just thinking, you'd speak to your mum on a Sunday night, and it'd be Sunday morning, and I was just like, oh. I don't know. I just had a weird feeling.
I was
when
lucky with my sister because she worked shifts.
Right.
So she'd
Oh,
be up at
very
all
nice.
times. Yeah.
That is good.
Yeah.
And I was there before, like, WhatsApp was just kicking off, Instagram was just kicking off, but it wasn't. Zoom didn't exist and FaceTime.
Yeah.
You had to go on Skype.
Oh, yeah, Skype.
Yeah.
What a time.
It felt like a very different world when I was there.
Yeah.
Like, now it's a lot more connected and.
But still, it's just too far.
So, let's go back to the first year then. So you, Chris, in this office.
Yeah.
It's rolling. You're making money.
So we did 6 months in that office.
Right.
And then the next 6 months, we were like, okay, well, I think when you're starting out, it's really good to have that support and someone there to sort of like, you know, keep the momentum going. Especially like, I don't know, when you're making those calls into a new market and it's not going well, like everyone will have their bad
Yeah, of
days,
course.
even in markets they're established in. But it's good to have that other person there because ultimately, if you've got a business partner, that helps you massively because they understand the pains that you're going through. It's not just you on your own. Like, I would not have been able to do it by myself. Like,
No.
well, actually, I could have, but it would have been very different. I would have done like a lifestyle brand where I just place my contractors and just, I don't know, wander about, go to the spa, have a great time. So we did the office for 6 months, and the next 6 months we did remotely. We'd meet up every so often, but it was like we were much more comfortable. Restrictions were over. We could, you know, do what we want. So that was great. And then it got towards the end of the year, and we were kind of like, well, actually, we're getting loads of jobs in, and we don't have the capacity and the bandwidth to, even though, you know, when you first set up, you're doing crazy hours, we don't have the time to service them all, and we don't want to take things on that we can't deliver to. So we made our first hire, and she started in January the next year. So it took us about a year to get someone in, which in hindsight, we could have got them in earlier.
Did you need to though?
In some ways, yes, but also like it was fine without having them. I think it came at the right time because we pulled a massive project literally as she started. And that project came from that very first call that I'd made to the Angry Irishman.
Really?
Yeah. They needed like 30 permanent members of staff. So it was just like,
Wow.
okay, here's your training, we'll train you up.
Did she have any experience then?
No, she was a master's graduate in the scientific field, so that helped.
And did Chris take that role on to train her?
Yeah, so we did a bit of both, because obviously I'd worked closely with the client, and I'd done those roles before, but on the contract side. So yeah, she was American though, so she's moved back now. But yeah, you never forget your first hire.
No.
Because yeah, such an impact.
So how did you feel at the end of the first year?
I felt good. I was like, I'm so glad that we've done this. And then it's the classic, why didn't we do this before?
Yeah.
Like, why didn't we do this before? But I think for me, the timings were perfect because when my manager left at our last place, that exposed me to a lot more. Like, it exposed me to understanding more about sort of like the P&L and, you know, what the implications are if, you know, clients don't pay, why you need to charge set margins, things like that. And then the person that I was managing in my team, they were put on a PIP. So obviously that taught me a lot because I had to manage that process, which is something that I think had my manager been there, I wouldn't have done.
Yep.
So yeah, I think for me it was the right time. I think probably Chris, because he's got more experience, he may have wanted to do it sooner.
Yeah. So year 2, how did that evolve?
Year 2 was good. We had, the contract book was fine, it was solid. And then we hired 2 more graduates. They were good, 1 in contract, 1 in perm. So Chris had 2 and I had the 1. And actually before that we had a school leaver who joined us, who actually moved down.
Where's your office now then?
Liverpool Street.
Right, is that
So,
the same one you're in now?
no, so we were actually in a WeWork to begin with. That WeWork then closed down when all the WeWork drama was going off. And because we still had time on our tenancy, we were shifted to another WeWork.
Right.
But we didn't like that one. And now we're in, do you know Uncommon?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in those offices.
Yeah.
So yeah, really nice. But yes, we had the school leaver. That didn't work out. And then we had 2 graduates, which were, you know, really good. They served a purpose. We had a great time with them. You know, we hit incentives. We did a ski incentive for the first half of the year. Hit that. We took them to Amsterdam. So yeah, great times. But then, so that everyone that we had in that second year is actually no longer with us.
So what mistakes did you make, do you think?
Oh, loads. Yeah. I think if I were to do that again, I probably would hire experienced people and focus on that. Because ultimately, when you hire graduates, not that many people set out and say, I want to do recruitment.
No.
It's kind of something they fall into.
It's not your first job often.
No, like it wasn't mine.
That wasn't mine.
Yeah. You kind of just fall into it and then you realise actually, if I do this properly, it can be something great.
Also, at the size you are, to train rookies up is quite a big ask, isn't it?
It's tiring.
Yeah. I'm interrupting today's episode to talk about our sponsor, Atlas, the only AI-first recruitment platform on the market. Now, imagine you had a genuine assistant following you around, listening to everything you said on the phone or in meetings, and then doing all the admin for you that you don't want to do. Well, that is actually possible now through Atlas CRM. It's the only platform with fully integrated AI, so there's no note-taking whatsoever and no need to buy any additional software. Now, they've got so many amazing features. Specifically, you can search beyond CVs. Okay, so all your interviews are added to the powerful search platform. And if a candidate mentions their experience on the phone or whatever, let's say they use React JS, JavaScript, this will be searchable for you if you use the keyword React. So it's not just searching CVs, it's searching every single communication touch point you've had with that person ever. Okay, so Atlas is brand new to the market and launching so rapidly. For the first 200 members, they are offering what's called a founder's license, okay? And the founder's license is going to be a 40% discount for life, okay? And it's only for the first 200. Now, if you want to be in the first 200, you're listening to this episode through the RAG, you're going to have a great chance. Go to www.recruitwithatlas.com/the RAG and sign up on that page. All right, let's get back to the show.
Like, I remember making like PowerPoints and then I was like, how can I make these really great? So I put a music track on it that matches what we're doing. But it's, you know, it takes a lot of time out and that's time that I will then not be recruiting.
Yeah.
So it has sort of that strain. But the ones that we did hire are no longer in recruitment anymore. They left to go and do different things, which is fine. We also hired an experienced person, but they were fully remote. So that was also difficult. And I think it was difficult for me in that that person was a lot older than I was. And I don't think that it was working. And I don't know if that's because because of me being obviously a lot younger, being a female, because I think that they probably saw Chris more as the boss.
Right.
First day, comes into Chris, hi boss. And I was like, okay.
Were you on the interview process?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he knew you were a co-founder?
Yeah.
So it's just a really...
It's just, yeah. But do you know what? Lovely guy.
Yeah.
Didn't work out though. Like the billings weren't there. Even the jobs on weren't there and things like that. And it's like, ultimately, we are a business. We can't keep people around because they're nice people.
What's your attitude to that? Like, how do you know when... Like, how much time do you give someone and what's your processes around making sure that they're going to hit the number or they're not?
So what we do now is we do a 90-day plan.
Yeah.
So you come in, we sit down together and we sit down and say, look, what do you think you can achieve in 90 days? And that will be a question of jobs on, pipeline, interviews, signed terms if it's perm.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we did do with that person, but they weren't sticking to it. But it's kind of like, I like to think that Chris and I are nice people, so we're giving the benefit of the doubt. But now it's like, we've got a 90-day plan. If you're not hitting it, then, you know, a conversation has to be had.
Yeah.
Because we can't keep affording to pay people and not have anything in return, especially when it's an experienced person and you're paying them a lot more than you would, you know, a graduate on 25, 26K.
I know. And the experienced people always talk good talk. They always interview well.
Yeah, because they know what to do. They've been in it long enough. And it's
like, do they have the fight? Do they have the desire?
Yeah.
Do they work hard enough? Like, there's so many questions.
So much to consider. But, you know, you live and you learn. Now we know that we've got a strict process in place. And if someone's not adhering to that, then, look, we'll have a conversation. You know, maybe give them a couple of weeks if we've got a few things that could help them get closer to the goals that we've set. But like I said before, we're a business. And ultimately, businesses have to make money to survive. And if you're not doing that, and you're not generating, you know, you're being paid a salary and you're not generating enough to even sort of like cover that, then why are we hiring experienced salespeople?
True. So year 2 was 2023.
Yeah.
So how did that year end?
That was a good year. We set ourselves up really, really well because we had loads of contractors at one client. And then we find out that they are closing down. And they were the bulk of my contract book.
How much are we talking? How many contracts?
About 8.
Oh, yeah.
And they're on like £1,000 a day plus.
Oh, so it's big margins, isn't it?
Yeah, good margins. And it's like, there's so many of them because they're on a remediation project. But that project's now closing. Because the idea was they'd go in and they would fix everything and it would all be great. And then they get permanent staff in to continue the work that they've done. But then they were like, we're closing down because the business couldn't afford to stay open. They were in a listed building, so they couldn't comply and adhere to regulatory standards. So they had to close down. So obviously for us, you know, we had the notice, which is fine. But then it's like all these people now need jobs, and there's only obviously a set number of jobs out there for the people who are doing such a niche area.
Yeah.
So that hit us hard because they then ended up finishing so around sort of like June time last year. So we were like, okay, like we knew this was coming. And that obviously just taught me that I need to have, you know, I knew this already, but when you're running a business, you're training up grads and you're doing all the other operational things, you kind of forget, you're like, it's fine, I've got loads of runners out. But when you realise that so many of them are at one place, you need to diversify your risk.
Yeah.
So this year, and I suppose last year as well, I was just focusing on how can I get, you know, even if it's exactly. And we've done that really, really well. Like we're working with so many more businesses now, but that's one thing that we learned that was, okay, I can't be in that position again. Like, yes.
How do you deal with that, even though you know it's coming? What's your kind of like methodology or process to deal with that kind of news? Because I've been there. I was a contract recruiter, and it's difficult.
It's difficult. I think you just have to trust the process. As lame as that sounds, it's like, okay, well, I've got to go back to basics. I've got to think like, where will this person go to, like geography wise? What's their skill set and what's their niche? And then get them out to all of those places. But for me, I kind of look at my contractors, like I said before, they're my friends. So one of them, you know, he found a contract elsewhere and he's like, I'm really sorry, it's not through. I'm like, why are you sorry? It's your livelihood. I don't care. Because I've got that relationship with him that I know if they needed someone or if he needed help or something,
he'll ring you anyway.
He'll ring me anyway, so it's fine. But my priority was getting those people into roles. which is tough when there's so many of them and obviously limited amount of roles out there. But yeah, mine is just, go back to basics, call around people that you know. I'm lucky in that I've been in it like nearly 7 years that I have enough contacts I can just call up and be like, hey, I've got this person, do you need them? Or do any of your friends or whatever?
Yeah.
So it works. And then I just keep praying. I'm like, this needs to work out. But it's fine. Like, I think the worst thing that would happen is we didn't get any more contractors, but then we've got the perm side of the business to rely on. So it did take a bit of that, where the majority of our time we've been heavily reliant on the contract book. That's when the perm piece took over and we were doing more sort of perm deals. And it's kind of like that balancing act. We want to obviously ideally have it 50-50, but it never will be.
No.
But yeah, we managed to get over that. And I think for us, that was a really tough time.
I think it's just like, I've been there when I was a recruiter, and then I've been there in my own business when it's my money and things drop quite quick. And it's just, I'm getting better as I'm more experienced in seeing through it. But in the moment, it can ruin your day, and it can affect your mindset around other people, the way you deal with things.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, I think, like, my best friend can tell when I'm stressed. When it was all happening, she texts me and she goes, are you depressed? I was like, no, I'm fine. She's like, you can tell me in 6 months when you're over it. Because she knew that it would be such a hard, difficult period. And it does affect it because it's your business. If I was at another company, I'd still be paid my salary.
Yeah.
I'd still, I'll be fine. I've not got the responsibility of paying for an office, paying for, like, you get like your VAT bill, your corp tax, you've got salaries to pay, you've got all of that going on. And it's like, it's not just me I've got to worry about, it will have an effect on other people. So it's just, it's hard when you're, I suppose when you're, the person at the top, because, you've got to make decisions. And
it's funny, I went to a spa, a sauna and ice bath place with my mate the other week.
Seems like all we do is go to spas.
No, I was in it, but this was like, it's proper like cold therapy and then hot therapy.
Yeah.
Anyway, like we'd had a crap week. There was some things didn't go our way and frustrating it. But it had happened just before I went to the spa.
Oh.
To the point where I didn't want to go. And also my wife was frustrated because my daughter was not going down to sleep at lunch, and the dogs were kicking off. And he turned up at my house, and I basically said, "Oh mate, I'm not coming."
Oh.
And then he went, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah." And then I went into the house. I said, and Lauren was like, "Just go. Like you're not in a right. You'd be better off going and chilling out for an hour and coming back."
Yeah.
So I rang him to pick me up, and then we did an hour, and then I went back to work. But it's funny because I saw him a couple of days later, and he goes, "You genuinely made me realize I don't want to work like you."
Yeah.
Because he runs a business, but not on the scale like we do, and not got the pressure that we do, and the overheads and stuff. And he's like, "I genuinely don't want to have the pressure that you've got." Like, I realised just watching you, and my business isn't even that big. We're like 14 people.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think, I don't know, I suppose what we're trying to do as a company, as CHR, is create a business where people don't have to do what we did. Because it's so stressful. I'm going great. I will look like you soon. Like, literally.
Shave it off. Get the hair done.
It's really bad. It is stressful, but you've got to find ways to detach from it. So like, I've got my self-care. So my self-care will be go to the gym, go to the spa, do the cold plunge, because if you can do that, you can do anything. And then Pilates.
Yeah.
And then I use that as time to detach away from the business. But it's also like, you've got to take the emotion out of things. So when you have those conversations with staff and it's like, well, you're not hitting your target, you've got to take the emotional side away. Obviously, you've got to be empathetic, but you've also got to understand that, this is a business. And it's stressful, but you also can't show your staff that you're stressed, because, well, if I start panicking, then everyone will start panicking. It's like, I don't know if you've seen the US Office.
Yeah, bits. I've watched the UK one religiously, but my wife loves the American one.
Yeah, there's a scene where Michael, who's in charge, just starts panicking, and then everyone else starts panicking, and it's like, you can't be that person, because ultimately people look up to you. You're running the business, you're paying them, and if they think things are going wrong, then
I find there's a line though between being like unauthentic as well. I've got no problem in being vulnerable with my team and letting them know where things aren't going the right way. I would never go to the depth of despair with them.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And I try not to do that anyway anymore. But yeah, I think it's a fine line between pretending that things are great and under the surface they're not. It's, everyone's different.
Yeah, like they all knew the clients were closing down. Like we were, open about it. Like these people closing down, so we're going to need to diversify. But it's just letting them not know that it's affecting you as much as it probably is probably the bit that, like, I think I was quite good at it because I think I can detach, but I feel like some people might not be able to. And it's like, you know, you've got to keep the spirits high in the office so that the momentum doesn't go.
Yeah, true. So how many, coming into the end of last year then?
Yeah.
So you've turned that around and worked on that. How many's in the business at the end of the year?
So the end of last year, there was myself, Chris, and then 3 others.
3 others.
Yeah, so we've got 1 on contract, 2 on perm. 1 on perm is building out the US, because that's the market that she's been in for the last 10 years.
Right.
And then the other 1 on perm is building out, working on what Chris has built, because ultimately Chris and
the
I...
one's doing Ireland
Yeah.
and what you built.
Yeah, contract.
What is the vision though? What do you want to create?
So our value, everyone says it, but our values are important to us. Like I don't know, think of like the stereotypical recruiter that hiring managers think of, like you, quarter zip, guy, classic.
Standing on the phone.
Yeah. But we don't want, you know, some recruiters have a bad reputation of being, you know, like big-headed, big ego, that sort of thing. We don't want to hire people like that. We want a company where, you know, people genuinely enjoy being there. We want them to develop themselves and be in a niche that's true to them and something that they enjoy. Being a small company, we're allowing people to do that. They can choose where and what areas they focus on. And then that means that they don't have to go out and set up by themselves. So if that means that we're growing slowly, then fine. I'm absolutely okay with that. As long as we stay true to our visions and our values, then that's what we want to do. So I think by the end of this year, we'll want to have a solidified US division, and we'll want to have more of a presence in Europe. And if we've got that, even if it's just 1 or 2 consultants, then fine. But it's like, you know, I'm not fussed about having like over 50 staff.
No.
As long as the people are doing it right by our standards, then that's okay. Because some people are like sitting here and they're like, oh, I want to have 50 staff by January next year. And it's like, I don't care. Like the numbers don't mean anything.
Will you keep billing, do you think? Are you the sort of person who enjoys... I get the vibe, like, you're just going to nail out those contract roles and enjoy it and stay close to people.
Until my last contractor retires, I probably will continue to do it. But the good thing about contract is, you know, you set someone up for 6 months, and then I think in the longer term, I'll want to take time off work. You can do that more freely, like as long as you're staying in touch with consultants and things like that.
Yeah.
You've got more flexibility. And then the idea is we'll have a contract team behind me, so it's not just dependent on me, because I'll have other things that I want to do. I want to grow the business and things like that with Chris.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy that billing, you know, the billing part of it. So
I get that vibe.
Yeah. I don't know, it's just like the buzz you get from getting your friend a job.
And it's going to be hard to replicate you.
Yeah, true.
Especially when you left and 6 months later, everyone's like, whoa, you're back.
Yeah, exactly. So we're trying like to build our brand. So we do like an industry event every year. Like I love a networking event. Yeah. It's like my favourite days of the year. Like it's great. You get to see everyone all in one place. And it's like the best opportunity, because it's like all your candidates, all your hiring managers, they're all in one room together. You've got to make yourself known. So I want to be more, I suppose, on the road going to visit my clients and candidates. But obviously I can't do that if I'm continuously having to bill.
Yeah.
So I think the long-term vision is, yes, I will still bill, but that won't be my primary focus. I'll do more sort of like relationship-led work.
Strategic business development.
Yeah, exactly that.
And how much is AI affecting your industry now, the client base?
So it's speeding up processes, which is good, obviously in, you know, drug manufacturing and things like that. However, I saw a quote somewhere, and it's like a computer can't apologise for making a mistake, whereas a human can, because a computer's only as good as it's programmed to be. And if something happens, then...
someone else has got to be blamed.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the people that I recruit for, that role will always stay there, which I think is good. I don't think it'll be replaced by AI, because really you've got to have someone to be held accountable to the fact that if I release this drug and it kills a load of patients, I can't blame the computer. You know, someone's actually there saying this drug is safe.
What would happen to that person? Would they go to prison or something?
Oh yeah, they go to court.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know anyone that's happened to.
No.
Probably because they've been locked away. Yeah. that wouldn't fare well for me.
Why
but no.
didn't they call me back? Oh yeah, they're in Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah, oh gosh. No, but yeah, that's what would happen if they released, you know, a dodgy batch. But I think that's only an extreme.
Do you think there's definitely a bit of a protection there in your...
Yeah, because we saw it in COVID. Like, what does everyone need? They need food and they need pharmaceuticals. Yeah. And no matter how much AI is used, the need for drugs and medicines will always be there. But the market's evolving. So let's say you're not feeling well, you took paracetamol. How much can I develop your paracetamol pill? Well, I can't. I could change like the colour of it or something like that. But no offence, who's going to waste time doing that?
Yeah.
But then you look at the market as a whole. When you look at like the COVID vaccine, obviously a lot of people were sceptical about that, but that's because they didn't understand the work that had been done and trialled beforehand. The vaccine space is huge. There's a lot of development that can be done there. But then also there's other things like cell and gene therapy and personalised medicines. Like my grandma was on a trial for pancreatic cancer. They were told you've got 3 to 6 months to live. And then she was on a trial and it extended her lifespan by 18 months, which is incredible. And we're going to see more and more of that in our industry. And those are the people that we work with. Those are the companies that we work with. So I think pharmaceuticals really is sort of like pandemic proof. And the market will always be there, whether it be in the UK.
Can they automate the jobs around the QP though? Is that going to happen? There'll be less people in these companies and they'll do more.
Yeah, but I think people shouldn't be scared. They can't be afraid. They've got to be an enabler. So they've got to work alongside it and realise, how can I improve my processes? And if they do that efficiently, then yes, obviously there will be less roles. However, there's always going to need to be research done. And those areas like the cell and gene therapy, the advanced therapies, that's where the future is. And if people don't know what's happening there, then they can't program a computer to do that work. So there will be advancements for human beings.
Yeah.
But it's just a question of whether it's in the UK or whether it's in Europe or the US or wherever. But with so many companies closing down here, I do think probably Europe is the right way to go.
Yeah. So you might end up having more of an operation focused in Central Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe get some sun.
Would you guys leave the UK or not?
I don't know. I don't think Chris is. He's well settled here.
Yeah.
For me, I'm not sure. I don't think I would. But I've got 816 days on Duolingo in Spanish.
Wow.
So
I started that last year and then did about 50 days and gave up.
Don't get me wrong, I cannot speak Spanish.
Yeah.
But,
you could have a bit of an interaction with someone.
yeah. But the market there is huge. And it's, it's growing and it's where people want to be. And I think, people talk about brain drain from the UK. A lot of candidates will move, but obviously there are now so many people out of jobs who are so qualified to work in the pharmaceutical industry. But obviously going back to Brexit, they've got the 90 days. I mean, look at me. I don't have Irish grandparents.
Aren't they?
Yeah.
Spain apparently...
They've got a nomad visa and things like that.
They're going to get more flexible. I think they're going to have to.
Yeah. But, a lot of people get...
I've got Irish grandparents. I've got Irish. My mum she was born in England, but both her parents are Irish.
So you can get an EU passport?
Yeah. I've been planning it for ages, but...
Get it done. Yeah.
I haven't done it.
But, yeah, like a lot of people can't do that. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see, like, where things go over the next, I don't know, I guess like even next year.
Have you looked at AI and automation in your own business and how it can supercharge what you're doing?
Yeah, but I think where I'm at, I'm kind of like, well, I've got my network, my people like me, they'll know. But I think for people who are starting out in the industry, it's so important to get on board with AI and using that. Like you said before, like you can have a call and then AI can, write down all the notes, plug it into your database and things like that.
It's incredible.
It's insane. Like I wish I had that when I started because it would save so much time, and time's the one thing that you don't get back. So it's like if I could have a call, all the notes will be populated and then everything from that gets fed into another system where it matches it up with all the companies that are recruiting for X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, all that can be done.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like you just need to enable it and get on board with it because it will change your life as a recruiter.
Yeah, and I think you'll still do the bits you want to do. You'll still be talking to people. You'll still be having relationships.
Yeah, because you can't replicate
but
that.
Getting people to the relationship, getting people to the conversation might be done through AI.
Yeah.
You can have an avatar of you that looks like you and sounds like you, and it's...
That'll be scary for
it's
many
coming.
people.
It's coming, though. And you'll be reaching out to candidates saying, look, I'm Haseena's AI avatar, and she wants to have a conversation with you about this role in the next 24 hours. Can you make it? And but hit all of the candidates at the same time. In seconds. And you're like, that's not possible for you. You can't do that.
It's not. And I was really ill at the beginning of January. Like I couldn't speak. My throat was gone and that was it. And I got a new role come in and I was like,
text recruitment.
Genuinely. But I would message people and I'd say, look, got this role in. It works for you. These are the details. And then obviously people love to have a chat and they're like, well, when can you speak? And I'm like, oh, I can't speak. And they're like, oh, you can't speak now. Okay, when are you free? And I'm like, no, I physically can't speak.
Yeah, I've lost my voice.
I've lost my voice. So yeah, something like that would obviously just change the game.
It's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming. I think it's about being open to it, and I think you're in a really cool sector where I think there will be a lot of protection. But I do think, on the whole, the recruitment market is underestimating the innovation in their customers.
Yeah.
So, if we're innovating our candidate processes, what are they doing to their teams at scale? So
Exactly.
where they might hire 1,000 people this year, in a few years it might be 100 people.
Yeah.
And that means less demand.
Less
Recruiters,
demand.
Recruitment agencies are going to break down. There won't be that many big agencies, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. That's not what we're aiming for. Like
No.
we want experts in their niche.
What is your life goal around it? Because you're 25. No,
No,
you're
no,
28 now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were 25. You're 28, which is still incredibly young to be where you are. What do you want to do? Forget, what is the work building for you? What's the vehicle? What's it a vehicle towards?
I want to live a life. Like, I was really, really fortunate where I grew up and we didn't actually have to worry about. We didn't have to worry about anything. And I want to be at a stage where I have my own family and I can provide that same support for them. Mm-hmm. But also, I want to be like a Pilates mum.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to be there in my Porsche, drop the kids off at school, go to Pilates, go for brunch with my friends. But then saying that, I will be so bored because I can always see myself continuously billing with my contractors.
Yeah, I can.
So
But if you could do that for a few hours, if there's
yeah.
any way of doing it, but it just doesn't work that way.
Not with contract recruitment. When someone calls you in the morning and they're like, I need 3 CVs by the afternoon.
Yeah. And 5 o'clock on a Friday, we'd always get something.
Oh, yeah. They
do
client.
it on purpose, don't
Yeah,
they?
one client literally every Friday will be like, oh, I need these people. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, great. I was about to leave the office.
Back in the boozy days, I used to be like on the way to the pub and then have to run back. And it's like, no, I wouldn't care. But I wouldn't even do a Friday afternoon now.
Yeah, but I feel like every time I'm away, something happens.
Yeah, that's always.
So it's like, okay, why? But I think creating a business but I can actually switch off, because I would say these last 3 years, Chris and I have not switched off once.
It's hard though.
Yeah, it's hard.
My brain is engaged all the time.
Yeah, and it's like, will I ever get to that point? Because it's like even on Christmas Day, some of my contractors don't celebrate Christmas, so they'll be working.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, they need to get their payment and things like that. And it's like, we need to create something where, because ultimately, what's the point of working if you work to live? If you live to work,
I think it's I'm thinking about me. For me, it's about financially getting to a place over the next few years where it's a choice.
Yeah.
And look, I could probably do that now, but I'm not quite where I want to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas if I can get to a point where I'm like, I've got the money put away.
Yeah.
I don't have, and then it's a choice. If I want to keep doing it, I want to keep doing it. If I don't, I don't.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're operating from a position of you're on the way up and you've got to get there, it's different.
Yeah. And I think, again, that's why I started so young. I was like, okay, well, that means that I can retire at 40 years old.
Yeah.
Because I've got 12 years. I know that that's possible.
100% possible.
Whether I want to stop working, I probably will not stop working, but I've got the option of, do I want to work? Yes or no?
I'm 40 in 2 years. It's
you can do
not
it.
Even 2 years, a year and a half.
It'll be fine. You'll get there.
I know. But I said when I started Hoxo I was 30, and I said it'd be like a 10-year plan.
Yeah.
But I don't even feel like we've started.
But yeah, exactly. Like when we started, we had all these plans, and it's like, well, realistically, could I tell you it was on them? Probably not, because have we followed them? Absolutely not.
No. And you'll always be, if you provide you stay in the space and you engage, you'll always be excited about what's coming. So
exactly,
that's the nature of who you are.
Because you still also get that buzz from like, okay, we've got a new requisition in, let's get it sorted. We've got terms signed with a new client, and it's just ever evolving. And it's like, you want your employees to have that same mentality of, okay, I've got this going, I'm not going to rest, I'm going to just keep going and going and going. And it's about creating that environment where people are motivated to do so. But I also feel like a lot of the newer generation, the ones who didn't have to do their A-levels or GCSEs because of COVID, they're like, well, it is what it is. If this job doesn't work out, I'll go and get another one.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not like you can't be like that. If you want to be successful and you want to grow something and build something, you've got to put the work in. Because like, I remember when I started, if I didn't do 2 hours on the phone, I wouldn't leave the office. And then it was probably like, I started in March, it was probably like around June time. And then one of the girls on my team, she's like, by the way, you can leave if you've not done 2 hours. I was like, I thought I wasn't allowed to. Like, I thought that was just, no, she's like, no, because you're writing up deals, you're getting money in, you're learning your space. It's okay. I was like, oh, okay. And it's about putting in that groundwork to get to the point.
Did you then go home at an hour and a half the next day?
No, I was too scared.
It's funny, but I remember I was about 4 years in London into my job, and I'm running like most of the contract division. And my boss, I'd never had a sick day. I didn't have a sick day even by the time I'd left. And Yeah.
I didn't think sick days were a thing in recruitment.
No, but there was people who did have sick days. And I remember, anyway, I got, I think it was on a Friday. We went for a coffee in the morning and she's like, you've never ever wavered. Like, I'm running the contract business. And she's like, you never waver. Like, and I was like, yeah, well, what am I supposed to, like, this is my job. Like, I'm committed to it. And she's like, yeah, but you could just phone me, you know, and say, like, I'm not coming in today. And
why would you do that?
She was like, yeah, but if you get to the point where you're stressed and it gets a bit too much, you could just phone me and say, I'm not coming in. You don't have to lie. You don't have to say you're ill. But you can go and take the odd day every now and again for yourself.
Oh, people do those personal days.
Well, anyway, so what did I do? Monday.
Personal day next day.
It's a Monday. 2 days later, I took the weekend. I rang her and I was like, I'm not coming in. She's like, I didn't mean next week.
Oh, yeah.
And then my boss was like, her boss, big boss, Barnaby, was like, this is like start of the month kickoff day. And I'm like swanning around London with my ex, like,
oh, fair enough.
You told me I could do it.
Yeah, but you know, if
gave me an inch, I took a yard, but I didn't do it again.
if someone's billing and whatever, I'll be fine. You know, if you're billing and you want to take a day off to just gallivant, then do it.
That's what I mean. I remember she was like, just remember, like, you're doing really well. You know, and I was like, yeah.
But I think, well, I don't know if it's the same for you, but I'm my biggest critic.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if I take a day off, then I'm going to miss something.
100%. Even tonight, like, we're meant to be going for dinner. I'm not feeling well.
Yeah.
I'm guilty for it. And you lot won't care. But I'm like, I said I won't do this.
I can get an early night.
But I need it. Like,
you need it, yeah.
Put on a plane overnight, come to London. It's just non-stop.
Yeah.
Well, final question, like, genuinely, though, I think you're an inspiration. Like,
thank you.
But you are, like, you know.
I didn't look at it like that.
A female
yeah.
starting a business at 25, like that, what you said about that guy coming in, I think there's so much of that going on.
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
There's so much of that, and I hate it. It's like, you know, there's so many amazing females in our industry, in all industries, that I wish would take more risks, but there's a fear that they're not going to, you know, when they have children and all, there's so many different, I think you just have to deal with so much more shit than we do. Like, so much more. So I want to say well done. Like, whatever happens, you know, you took a great risk there, and 3 years later, you're doing well, you're making money, you're on it.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying.
And what would you say to more people listening who think, yeah, maybe I should do it?
Honestly, do it. What's the worst that could happen? Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
Like,
but you just go back, don't you?
You go back to another job.
Yeah.
And it's honestly not embarrassing. Like, people will applaud you for even taking that risk and that jump, because...
I don't know many people, though, that actually start businesses in our industry and quit after a year or two anyway. They just you get the odd one who goes down after further, but in the early days, normally the energy's there to go and make it happen.
But genuinely, if you've got a network and you've got candidates and clients who are working with you now and you're in a job, they will want to work with you again, and they'll respect you more for doing it by yourself because they want to see you do well. They don't care about the people who are running your old business. They care about you because you're the one they've got the relationship with. And if you've got a good network around you, then you'll be set up for life.
I met a candidate when I did my London podcast in January. I was getting the train back to Sheffield. I'm sat in St Pancras, and I get a little tap on the shoulder, and it was a candidate I placed in 2015.
No way.
He's still at the company.
Oh, wow.
He
Good
permed
work.
for 5 years, had a break, went back as... Sorry, contract 5 years, had a break, went back as perm, and now he's been promoted and he's in a really...
Amazing.
But we sat together because he was going to their office in Leicester, an insurance company, and I was going to Sheffield, so...
Oh, that East Midlands train.
Yeah, we did an hour together, and he was like... You know, we became friends then. We went to football together, we'd have dinner, we'd have lunch. And I didn't place him. I knew him for at least 3 years before I placed him, and he was one of my final proper placements.
Really? Yeah.
But I put so much effort into... I knew he was a great candidate. Everyone said he's one of the best BAs in the market. Like, he's just the best. So I was like, I want to buy him coffee. I want to take him out, go to football. I did loads of work on him. And I finally got him. And look, he's still at the company. He's clearly gold. But he's like, no one does that anymore, Sean. Like, no. Like, no, I never get calls. I never get invited to coffee. I never get anything. Like, no one puts the effort in that you
I
put
do.
in. Well, that's it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Like, imagine you just take them out for dinner, coffee, whatever, because you're getting to know them as a person, because you can't just look at them as like they're transactional. Yeah, it's like there is a person behind that. And especially in contract market, you've got to get to know them. Otherwise, like, you're just dealing with, like you say, a CV, just another name.
Yeah.
And it's like, you really should care, because if you don't care about your candidates, then you don't care about your market. What's the point?
Yeah. Agreed. More people should still... I think AI is going to make that better, make it easier. I think, Jay, if you get it right, you should spend more time having lunch with people.
Exactly.
You should be doing more of the bits you like.
So the boring bits will be automated, and then as a recruiter, you can do the bits that you say you're good at, which is the people piece, because that's what we are. We're dealing with people.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, look, Haseena, thanks for being so honest. Thanks for
you.
sharing your story.
Hey, thanks
if
for having
anyone
me.
is listening and wants to reach out, is it okay if they drop you a LinkedIn
Yeah, of course.
message?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll get you back on in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you as always for listening to today's show. I truly hope that you got value from it. Honestly, it's the only reason I take time every week to ensure that my audience, you guys, future and existing recruitment owners, you're learning from each other to make this industry that I love so much stronger. And today's episode is brought to you by my business, Hoxo. I'm the CEO and founder, and we're on a mission to help brand recruitment agencies and their people better. I want to help people have the tools to stand out in the most competitive markets in the world. So I'll see you again next week with another episode. Catch you soon.